Antares starts by explaining that a god is essentially the ultimate manifestation of elements. Put another way, they are laws themselves. He further explained that gods rarely leave behind corpses at all, since they're favored by heaven and earth, made entirely of concentrations of elemental power. Even just a tiny part of a god's body would already count as an absurd stroke of luck, and not to mention, he has never even heard of anyone obtaining a complete god's corpse. Our boy says it was mostly just luck, but he tells Antares he's far more curious about what the thing is actually good for. Antares gives him a look like he's staring at an idiot, and straight up tells him he's a fool. The reason their corpses are so valuable, he explains, is that they contain laws, and by studying and comprehending those laws, divine-level professionals can rapidly improve their strength. Lin hadn't known any of this before, but now it clicks, and he finally understands why his teachers were so surprised when they saw the severed finger back then. Anyway, that's all Antares feels like explaining. He flicks his tail, notes that he's going to sleep. However, he tells our boy there's still a dragon pearl inside the Dragon King Palace dungeon. When Lin brings it back, that will count as a new round of deals. The next second, a burst of hot breath sends Lin flying straight into the air, and the last thing he hears is Antares telling him that when the time comes, he'll explain the secret to becoming a supreme divine. The scene shifts, and Lin is already back at Xiajing Academy. The first thing on his mind is finding his teachers. As soon as he reaches the small courtyard, White Divine rushes over in excitement. It turns out he's been staying in the Hall of Heroic Spirits this entire time, worried Lin might run into serious trouble, and he had just sensed Lin's return moments ago. After a thorough inspection from head to toe, Lin sits down and tells the two of them everything that happened in the lower level. When they hear that both the Demon Emperor and the Dragon Emperor had gone after him, the two old pals are visibly shaken. White Divine remarks that Lin still managed to slip away under those circumstances, and figures those two bastards are probably furious right about now. Lin then pulls out several divine law crystals and asks whether this would be any help to them. Staring at the crystals crackling with lightning on the stone table, both of them gulped nervously. After all, even across the entire human race, White Divine reveals that only the old man possesses a single wind element law crystal. Meng Anwen notes that to them, these crystals are even more valuable than the god's corpse itself. That's good news for Lin. He hands the crystals over without hesitation and adds that one of them should be passed on to old Yan. Meng Anwen smiles and says that the old fellow will definitely be thrilled once he finds out, while White Divine pouts a little. Meanwhile, the Divine Tower suddenly materializes in the courtyard. Lin freezes for a moment before White Divine tells him to come along. Lin instinctively asks where they're going, and White Divine cracks his wrist, noting that while the two of them can't help much with the Abyss or the Dragon right now, they still hold some sway when it comes to human affairs. And in the next second, the two are teleported away. In the next scene, they appear high above a dojo. Almost immediately, White Divine's thunderous voice echoes across the sky, telling the Black Dragon Society to show themselves. Inside the dojo, people instinctively look up. Many recognize the voice immediately, saying it belongs to White Divine. But no one understands why someone of his status would suddenly show up at their dojo. Almost instantly, several professionals rise into the air. At the front stands a middle-aged man who remains calm and composed. He politely says that White Divine's arrival caught them unprepared, though he didn't sound very welcoming either. Lin scans the group and notes that quite a few of them are divine level. White Divine has no interest in small talk. He tells them to step aside, remarks that this has nothing to do with them, and makes it clear he's only here to demand an explanation from the Black Dragon Society. The man visibly relaxes, but still asks what the Black Dragon Society could have done to provoke Lord White Divine's anger. White Divine calmly notes that they colluded with abyss demons and attempted to assassinate human prodigies in the lower level, then casually asks whether that sounds like something worth settling over. The crowd shudders, hearing the accusation, and eventually decides to move aside. The two descend into the dojo, and a magic array activates, sealing the entire area. It's obviously a trap, which makes it clear the other side came prepared. White Divine doesn't panic. He merely tells Yinri to come out and asks whether he dares to act but not admit it. An old man with a cane walks out slowly, letting out a low chuckle. He says that the moment his son sent back news from the lower level before dying, he already knew this day would come. This man is Yinri, a level 93 divine level Onmyoji. The moment he sees Lin, killing intent erupts. He asks whether Lin is the one who killed his son and even erased his soul, leaving no chance of resurrection. Raising his staff, Yinri notes that while he may not be able to kill White Divine, he will make sure our boy stays behind today. Countless talismans appear in the air and rapidly form two massive creatures. What shocks everyone is that they aren't Shikigami at all. They're two demon kings. At that point, there's no need for further proof. This is outright collusion with the Abyss. Even White Divine is slightly surprised that the Abyss would directly hand over two freshly dead demon lords for Yin-Ri to refine into summons. Meanwhile, flames ignite around White Divine's fists. Yin-Ri has no idea just how badly he's messed up, and even claims he'll send both of them on their way. White Divine immediately charges the two demon lords and tells Lin to watch himself. Lin, meanwhile, realizes that Onmyoji are summoner-type professionals just like him. Without summons, their actual bodies are notoriously weak. Even if Yin-Ri is divine level, Lin figures he might actually be able to take him down. With that thought, he charges straight at the old fart. Yin-Ri praises Lin, saying that, as the youngest divine general of the human race, his potential is certainly impressive. He then adds that he'll refine Lin into a Shikigami as well, which he believes to be the best way to comfort his son's spirit. Yin-Ri activates a soul-binding curse, a control-type skill that shoots toward Lin. The moment it touches him, status immunity triggers, and the spell instantly collapses. Yin-Ri clearly didn't expect that, and demands to know how Lin managed to do that. Lin doesn't slow down at all, realizing the old fart just used a soul-type attack. Unfortunately for him, Lin knows that trick too, and does it better. Soul flames flicker in his palm, and the next second they slam straight into Yin-Ri's head. A scream follows. Though badly shaken, Yin-Ri quickly activates another skill. Chains of fate erupt from talismans, shooting toward the professionals inside the dojo. In the next moment, the bystanders are completely bound. They panic, asking the guildmaster what he's doing, but quickly realize they were locked in place, and even worse, their power is rapidly draining away. Energy surges along the talismans and pours straight into Yin-Ri's body. He throws his head back and laughs, greedily draining the strength and life force of his own people. A skelly rushes forward and hacks at the talismans with everything it has, but the chains don't even budge. In no time, several weaker professionals are completely drained, their bodies shriveling into dry husks. Yin-Ri's expression turns cold. He tells Lin there's no way he's breaking the chains of fate, then declares that he'll tear apart every one of Lin's summons, torture him thoroughly, and finally refine him into a Shikigami. At that point, Lin realizes he really did underestimate a divine level. With his current methods, fighting someone like that is still pushing it. Even so, he doesn't back down. First, he summons the Lich General. Then he buffs the little skellies, layering different aura rings on top of them. Lightning crackles among the effects. Yin-Ri laughs when he sees it and asks whether Lin really dares to play with lightning in front of him. Immediately after, he summons another Shikigami. A massive lightning spirit appears behind him, stretches out a hand, and sends towering bolts crashing down toward both the skellies and Lin. Meanwhile, the lightning doesn't even tickle him. Yin-Ri freezes again, clearly unable to understand how this keeps happening. At the same time, White Divine finishes off the two demon lords. He clenches his fist and smashes it straight into the lightning Shikigami, then turns to Lin and asks whether he's had enough fun yet. He reminds him, a bit sternly, that he already said he'd handle the Shikigami. Lin rubs his head, looks slightly embarrassed, and notes that he gets it now. Right after that, Lin activates both Mighty Soldiers and Overcharge at the same time. He raises his scythe and slashes at the talismans again. This time, under Yin-Ri's stunned gaze, the chains of fate shatter. Yin-Ri instantly realizes that Lin's attack power has surged by at least 10 times. If he could break the chains, then that means Lin can actually hurt him as well. Still, he refuses to believe that a mere level 53 kid could threaten a divine level. With a furious roar, a formation appears beneath his feet as he activates Shikigami Fusion. Energy begins to gather in the sky, beams converging above his head as something massive starts to take shape. Like a classic villain, he keeps rambling, saying that once the summoning is complete, both of them will be as good as dead. White Divine's expression turns serious. He notes that the strongest Onmyoji can supposedly summon legendary Shikigami, and he didn't expect Yin-Ri to have reached that level already. Suddenly, a massive eyeball forms in the air. The chilling aura it releases makes Lin deeply uncomfortable. Without hesitation, he pulls out a drop of the poison god's essence blood. We don't even know how much of this stuff he has left. Either way, he fuses the essence into the big boy and orders it to destroy the ritual. White Divine is completely stunned by the sudden move. He immediately flies upward and complains that the little brat didn't warn him first, since even he doesn't want to get anywhere near that kind of poison. The summon quickly absorbs the essence blood. Empowered by the divine poison, it unleashes a devastating blast straight at Yin-Ri. Feeling the terrifying energy, he opens his mouth in disbelief and asks what that even is. He tries to block it, then desperately raises both hands, but it's useless. The instant the poison touches him, his hands start to melt, turning into dry bone in seconds. He can't comprehend what kind of toxin could corrode a divine level's body this fast, but he never gets the answer. In the blink of an eye, his entire body is eaten away, collapsing into a pile of bones on the ground. White Divine feels a chill run through him and remarks that the poison is horrifying. Even if the opponent was a summoner with a relatively weak body, he never expected Lin to actually pull it off. Soon after, the dojo's barrier fades away. The remaining professionals flee at once, retreating behind White Divine, looking horrified. White Divine glances at them, including the middle-aged man says nothing and leaves with Lin. The rest can only stand there in silence, staring at the dojo below, now completely shrouded in toxic mist.